All right, I do see the icon now. I guess we're live on YouTube. So welcome everyone. This is the Node.js release working group. Today is August 25, and we do have an agenda here to follow up. But before that, do anyone have any announcement? Anything they like to discuss?
I guess I should mention, if you haven't seen, I'm currently updating the Jenkins servers and doing server maintenance. So at the moment, there's no CI available as I'm in the middle of updating stuff.
Nice. Yeah, cool. Yeah, and yesterday we also had the 18.8 release that went out. So there's that. So let's start with the agenda here. We do have this first item for imminent issue for student users. It's another time zone update. I remember we landed one of these recently, or maybe it was a while ago.
I think there's a pull request open, but I have a feeling it hasn't landed.
I guess for this
Yeah.
to be impactful, we'd need to get releases out before whenever the time starts, which I think was the 4th or 5th of September.
I guess that would be the ideal, right? But maybe it's still useful even if it's past the date, right?
Yeah, for historic calculations, I think it's still useful. I think someone raised that before, like when you were doing historic date difference.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like there are actually two open PRs, which I guess are trying to do the same thing, but neither of them have landed yet. I think the first one is landable. I can't see the actual CI results, but it did say there were 46 successful checks, which normally means it all passed.
Is it a 43,988?
Which one's this?
No,
Zoom, sorry. Zoom defaulted to.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, those two PRs. The first one I think is landable. I think though we probably need PRs for the other release lines as well because they all have different versions of ICU. So we would probably need to rebuild the ICU data file for every release we would plan to put out if we were to put out releases for this. So maybe we could either ask the people that open those PRs if they would be willing to open equivalents on, I guess 16 and 14, because I think that the main PR would land on 18 as is. But yeah, there's not much time before the 4th, so if we were to do releases, it would sort of, if the releases were to happen before the 4th of September, it would kind of have to be within the next week, I guess.
Yeah, it doesn't leave much time, especially with no Friday releases, although we could, bypass that this one time, but still only gives like until Thursday next week, which isn't long.
I mean, I guess we could do a sort of release where it's only really the time zone update. I mean, we've just done an 18 release, so I'm hopefully there won't be much to go into an 18 release anyway, given all the good work you did to get 18.8 out. So maybe we just do releases where the only thing in it is the time zone update.
Yeah, there's also that regression fix that we might be able to pull in as well, maybe.
If it was ready in time,
It was
that
ready.
sounds reasonable. Yeah.
So what we would be after is 3 releases that have available to do a small release next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's more with just this single commit or maybe 2 if there is a regression. I think that's feasible for me to take one.
So I'm supposed to be on vacation next week, so I'm not going to be around for build either,
Yeah.
or at least I wasn't
No.
planning to be. So I don't know if that's going to complicate things. I hope not, because it won't be good if everything stops because I'm not available. Yeah, I guess the first thing to do would be to try and get one of those 2 PRs, ideally the earlier one, because that looked to have got the CI's passing. Get that landed, and then try and somehow get equivalent PRs opened for 14 and 16, and then get releases lined up for next week.
One thing that probably we will release is that we are just waiting for a particular fix to Vladimir create the security release before the mine. I know that the mine was scheduled to like 6 of next month, I guess. But before that, I think that we are going to have a security release. We need to mention it somewhere, like in this meeting, or because he already created the issue for that. So is that is there a workflow to follow or something like that?
I think the workflow is if there is one being planned, it's on the steward of the release to try and source an appropriate date and releases that can do that. But you're right, if we're sourcing, it sounds like we might have 2 releases to do, one that needs to be done to cover that fix and one for the time zone thing. And if they're all aligned for the same date, that might be a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, if we don't have bandwidth, and there is like a one issue release coming up on the 6th for you, Rafael, like maybe then I can try to get one of the LTSs for at least a time zone, and then we can maybe find someone else. But like maybe it will have to wait an extra week.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I have the release schedule for the day 6 and day 20, so
yeah,
I think that I'm good. I will do both releases, so yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. I guess one thing, I think Richard, I asked about it and you dug in and found the answer. There is a way of overriding the time zone directory, which might be a reasonable, workaround to say, hey, if you really need this and you can't wait for a release, download the time zone stuff from here, set this environment variable, point to the directory, and it should load the time zone stuff you need.
Oh, that is nice. So there is a possible workaround.
There is. I don't know how easy it would be to deploy to any sort of
Production
production environment, but there is a potential workaround involving putting things onto a local directory, downloading things into a local directory, and then setting an environment variable.
Right.
I do believe that there are some places where it's actually difficult to set environment variables, but it's kind of
right. Yeah, another thing we can do, if you think it's appropriate, we can maybe just leave a note in the releaser channel, like poke the active releases and see if someone else that is not here in the meeting today has bandwidth and like wants to volunteer. But otherwise, I think we just follow the regular schedule. And well, I might try to accommodate an extra one for LTS, but yeah. What do you think?
I think
Sending a
that's
message?
the best we can do, I think. Try and
Yeah.
get volunteers. It's not a good time with like all the holidays and it being summer break and, you know, public holidays and things coming up. So we just say best we can do.
Yeah. Is there by any chance we can include it in the security release? Because I know that
generally
you
wouldn't. We generally wouldn't. It's not to say we couldn't, but it wouldn't.
Yeah, for current, we're sometimes a bit more relaxed, but not generally for LTS. But then if this release is gonna, the argument is like when a security release comes out, you want as small as list as commits as possible, so there's no friction to people updating. But if this
Right.
other release is gonna happen before then anyway, then that argument holds less weight because they're gonna have to pick up that change as well anyway.
okay. Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So just to mention, we have the issue 737 that is like the schedule of the regular release. When actually when we have the date, we need to include it to this table, right? I mean the date for the security release, because likely it will happen before my release. So it will postpone the regular release by 1 week at least, I guess.
Yeah, once the date's announced and decided.
Okay.
Yeah, but generally it's fine to update that table. Like, yeah, if you need to change dates or anything, probably update it here because I ended up releasing on the 24th. Let me update mine. Okay, so I guess we can move on to the next item in the agenda here. Oh yeah, which is the discussion on removing the limitation on the frequency of Semver minor or LTS releases. So yeah, anyone want to start? Maybe Beth, I know.
Yeah, I'm like, for history, for a long time, we wanted to say we do one Semver minor per quarter and then a couple of patch releases per quarter with like a rough, you know, one release per month for active LTS. The problems that you know, introduced is that when you've got a bunch of Semver minors, that you have to wait until the end of the quarter to get shipped in a release. That creates the Git history out of sync and can cause more problems and make the patch releases harder. At the time when this was decided, there were a lot of companies out there saying conceptually they avoid minors, but and treat patches as easier releases to upgrade to. But generally, you know, in my experience, a release is a release. It's painful to upgrade. It doesn't matter if it's a, you know, a patch or a minor. If you end up being bitten by a bug, you end up being bitten by a bug. It's not normally determined by whether it's a patch or a minor, from what I've heard. So I think Michael Zasso's proposal to try and stop the divergence in history across, you know, so much, or to reduce it, is to just say, like we do with current, every month we do a Semver minor release, or we just cherry pick from what's on the Node 18 branch onto 16. If it happens to pick up some minors, it will be a minor release. If it doesn't, then it would be a patch. But generally, it will likely be a minor because we do minors so often for 18. There were some concerns around, like, historically, we've had additional baking time for features. So one of the proposals I put in there was, we've got the 2-week baking time for things on current at the moment. But then we tried to aim for a little bit longer for features. And I wondered if we just set a longer default baking time of like 4 weeks, that would mitigate the fact that we're shipping features sooner. Because, it's a trade-off, like we're getting extra baking time there, they're still getting time to bake. And I just think that's simpler to explain, to just say, once something's been released on current for a month, it can then go into LTS. That rather than people being like, hey, when can this feature land? And we're like, no, not until 2 months' time when the next miner's scheduled, or, no, not until this time, it's extra baking time. If we would just had a flat rule of 1 month, then it can land on LTS. That might be a good mitigation. I think that's a summary of as much of the thread I read. I don't know if there's any thoughts or opinions.
I do have a question, like how would we manage the extra baking time? Like, is there any way to automate that, or would require like manual intervention for each?
It shouldn't need manual intervention. What I would do is look for, so if you used a Node 18 release, you can kind of backtrack and say Node 18.6.0 was released 4 weeks ago. Therefore, when I run branch diff, I'm going to run it against the tag of 18.6.0, and then it will pick up everything that's only baked for, that's baked for long enough. It doesn't involve us having to like review it and say, oh, has this been a month or 25 days? If we use the tags to just, 2 releases back, roughly it's going to be about 2 releases back from what the current release is. That might be fine.
Right, I see. Yeah, that makes it simple for sure. It sounds reasonable to me.
I mean, I think it should be possible to extend the tooling, but I don't think the tooling will automatically figure that out at the moment.
It could, but yeah.
It would have to have extra logic to work out when something actually went out in current.
But I kind of feel that's a reasonable step to making life a little bit easier and keeping history in sync, and a small step, see how well it's received for a while, seems reasonable. And then if we want to go further to simplify more, we can. If we get, negative feedback saying it's too fast or something, we can adapt. But I feel like it's worth trying at this point. It's been a suggestion a few years back, and it's again now, so +1 to trying it.
Right, and what is just to make sure, so you suggesting like in your idea is a monthly cadence instead of the quarterly?
For the miners, yeah, that would be instead of doing like patch miner, we just do miner, and patch releases would be reserved for interim breakage fixes or interim critical updates that we have to ship out in the meantime.
Yeah. No, it makes it just closer to the workflow we have on current.
Yep.
I believe it just simplifies the process, and does it better for the releasers, and I think like it kind of solves all of the needs I was asking when I replied to the issue there.
In theory, it should mean we have to tag less things as backport blocked, which is probably the most, this is waiting on a miner, this is also waiting on a miner, this is waiting on a miner. In theory, it should reduce that, which is often a lot of the work. So
right, yeah.
In case of security release, like let's imagine that we did minor last week and we need to do a next security release next week. It can land as a patch, or it needs to follow the minor as well.
It for security releases, it's whatever the patch is, whether it's a patch or minor will just determine whether we do an additional minor or additional patch. We don't there's no limits. Like if the security release happens to include a feature, then it'll have to be another minor, which is fine because
Okay.
Okay, anything else to add to this one? Trying to take notes here, but kind of failing, but I'll try to come back later. Otherwise, let's move on to the next issue here in the agenda. Major release rotation, which I think Beth can also speak to it.
Yeah, I've done it for quite a while. It's quite a lot of work. Probably not going to have time to do it this round. And also, I just think it would be good to have someone else, familiar with the process, so we're not relying on one single person having the history of it. I will be around to help if anyone would like to steward it, but it's just I think a rotation makes sense just from how much work it is, and like some folks on the team don't even get dedicated time from their employer to work on these things. So committing to it for eternity, like I have been in the past, well, just doesn't seem reasonable. I just think a rotation would make sense. But the pain of that is, need to go for an onboarding process, improve the onboarding docs, have someone different pick it up this time, which is going to cause a little bit more friction this time, just because, learning a new process always involves that. But I think it would be a good outcome, getting to the point where we have more than one person who's can take charge on a major release.
Yeah, I would like to volunteer to this one, at least. I mean, not by myself, because I really would need some help in that, like first time in the major release. But yeah, I would like to be included in that rotation to help you, and because I know that is like a lot of work to do. And yeah,
if you're volunteering, like I'm totally happy to like have an initial chat about it, talk you through getting started.
yes. When the next major is scheduled?
It's scheduled. It's normally around the 20th of October. I need to check the date, but it's always the third Tuesday in October. So
Okay, yeah, that's a bit tricky for me, because October will be traveling at least the whole month, basically.
okay.
So yeah, it will be tricky. I mean, I suppose that the release will be in October, but the work will be doing in the last month, actually in September, right?
So for me, it was like a 6-week process. 6 weeks before the release, it was creating the branches. 4 weeks before, it was creating a proposal. Creating the first proposal takes a little bit of time just to get, all the change logs added, all the structure. The work it involves after that is updating the proposal every week with what has landed on the main branch, which changes on a weekly basis. But I could usually contain that to like an afternoon's worth of work. But it's really the week or so before the release where we have to get the changelog in order. That took a lot of the time, and you have to account for that, because that's it's not easy. You have to look at every commit, try and convert it into human readable words, and doing that for a major release takes a lot of work, and you can only really finalize it after the code is frozen, which is the week before the release.
Yeah, so I can definitely help on like 6 weeks in advance or something like this.
Okay.
And I mean, also I really, even I not being capable to do the release in October, but I really would like to at least have a call and see how you do it, just to improve the knowledge and maybe do the next one.
Yeah, you could even like be involved in the branch creation, maybe cut 1 or 2 of the release candidates in advance, and that would be enough to understand the mechanics of updating the proposal, updating the changelog, building the release candidate, and that's kind of half the work anyway. And then maybe we can just figure out who clicks the button on the day and ships the release later.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so we could work together like anyone from now in the next week or so to get the branch created and maybe get, you know, a very, very early draft proposal. And then from there, just iterate to see who's going to have time closer to the release, which actually might be a good thing anyway, to try and make it more than a single person process in the first place.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, like, I'd love to at least kind of shadow, like follow a few of this, if you're preparing on it, and like, yeah, at least see how it works. But yeah, maybe I can also be more integrated. I don't know. Yeah, I believe, yeah, most of us here are gonna be there NodeConf EU in the early October, so it's kind of gonna be right in the middle, right? Like, given the time frame you just said.
Yeah, that's normally fine. If like sometimes I skipped a release candidate 1 week because I was just not available, and you know, it is the best effort like everything else we do, but sounds like a good approach that, you know, Raphael or you may be able to pick up a release candidate each or two, and then, you know, some of the process, and we can figure out the actual release date mechanics after.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. Then what should I take notes here? Should I take notes? Then maybe Raphael and I were interested in, and
Yep.
that
I'm
would be
happy
great.
to jump in with some notes as well, after the call, and just say like in the doc. What we probably need is a screen share or something between anyone who's interested, probably next week, and then go from there.
Cool. So yeah, with that, I think the remaining items here are the release plans. Yeah, which for 18, I think we're good, right? Given that Raphael is already scheduled for the 6th and the 20th September. So current is scheduled until basically end of September. There's a spot early October if anyone wants to volunteer. For anything you want to add?
I was just saying the release after is the transition release that just has a single commit. Just FYI.
Oh, really? That one in early October, or the one after that?
The last one, yeah, the last one will be the LTS transition release.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And then we have the planning for 16. So, and 16, remind me here, is it going to be already not active anymore for the September release? When is it?
September. I think it formally goes into maintenance in October, but I will need to double check that.
Okay, so there's an active release yet to be done for
Yes.
16.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, it goes into maintenance. Yeah, so and based on the discussions we've had earlier, in theory, that could be edited and be another minor release, which might be nice anyway, shipping another set of features before it goes into maintenance.
Yeah, just targeting anything that like has baked for 4 weeks. Like we say, like trying to cherry pick commits from an earlier point from 18.
Yeah, pick up all of those lingering features that have waited to go out.
Cool. Well, yeah, that spot is open if anyone is excited to give that first try to this new approach for LTS. I'm considering it, but I have to actually go back with my team and make sure I have the bandwidth. So I'll leave the spot open for now in case anyone wants to volunteer. And we have 14 here that Are we actually scheduling anything for 14, or is it just if security patches or whatnot?
In theory, we could put a placeholder in for a patch release to pick up the time zone change.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the time zone probably a nice one to land there. But also it can be just that and maybe not much more, just for the sake
Any
of keeping a
just
small release.
just any open backports that are passing CI or patch, anything that's open, ready to go, tagged with
Yeah, I think
LTM,
that, yeah, overall people actively are trying to land it on 14 otherwise. Yeah.
might be worth pinging. Did 1421 go out? I don't think that did. 1421. I see Danielle's tagged with 1421. That's also maybe she may have capacity to do a small release of 14.
Yeah, I don't think a 14 release has gone out. So
Yeah, so that might be someone who could help with the time zone things, but I don't want to speak for her. Worth checking.
Right. Yeah, we should try to land that PR then, like as soon as possible, so that.
But we'll need backports because it won't be cherry pickable to 16 and 14.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah, and ideally it would land on current first, or well, I guess not necessarily.
I don't think it needs to, given the nature of the time zone update, because effectively you're rebuilding the ICU data, so there's no benefit for it to wait for the thing to get in current, because it will be a different file anyway, and it will be scoped down to the time zone updates itself rather than pulling anything else, hopefully major in. There was I think there's another PR open to try and automate the process, but I'm not sure what state that's in. I haven't had time to look at it.
Yeah, I think that was the one I was looking at. Cool. Okay, other than that, there was this last issue here for the periodic table, but I think we kind of settled on that last time, right?
I think we did.
Yeah, I'll just take their agenda label out of this one then, yeah.
I can't remember. Did we update the file in the repository? Or
I
is
think
that
see a pull request here from Beth, adding the code name for J.
I think we landed it. Yeah, Jod.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the only reason to keep that open would be whatever the next one was, wasn't it? But that's like years away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it probably doesn't need to be on the agenda now,
No.
at least for the moment.
Sounds good. Okay, so that's it for today. Did anyone else had anything else you want to chat about?
I guess the collaborator summit is happening. So I don't
Great
know.
point.
Yeah, I don't know. Like in OpenJS world, I don't think we didn't have a session, which made sense because there weren't that many folks from the release group there, but it might be different this time.
Oh, but yeah, in general, I think it's nice to try to have a session at least to maybe gather attention from the other collaborators, see if anyone else is interested in participating in the releases, right?
Yeah, so I think Michael Zasso is planning to be there. Maybe Danielle, I know she's at NoConf. I'm probably going to be there. So we'll have
Yeah,
a
I'm
few.
going to be there.
Yeah,
Go
I'll be
ahead.
there too, but um, I have scheduled 2 sessions for diagnostic working group and also to the security. So I'm not sure if I will be able to join to the releases one. Let's
Busy already.
see. Yeah.
Yeah, I need
guess-
to try. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I guess maybe just worth putting a feeler out to see if anyone thinks it warrants a dedicated session. And if it does, it'd be nice if we can set up a Zoom or something so that the people who are in a release group who can't make it can be there too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just going to say that they usually try to avoid the overlaps, like, and they will listen to you, like the organizers, like the people trying to arrange the rooms. If you yell loud enough that you would like to be in this and not in that, they will try to organize it so that everyone can be happy. But yeah, maybe yeah. Sometimes we also have to choose. So if there are parallel tracks, which I believe there will be, like maybe there will be some conflicts. Cool. Yeah, but that's a good reminder, Beth. Thank you for the reminder there. I think I think it's nice to at least have a session to just raise awareness, like maybe some introduction.
Yeah, we have onboarded new releases from those sessions before, so maybe it's worth having it just a short session from that side, even if we don't have a particularly strong agenda that we need to discuss there in person.
Yeah. But even yeah, that's also nice. Like, because I remember when I was just starting, right? I kind of what I was onboarded during one of the collab summits, kind of thing. And it's nice when you're there for the first time and there is actually, there's an actual meeting and they go through the agenda. It's also nice just from like picking curiosity, right? Like from folks that are just starting. Yeah. So yeah, that's keep that in mind. Like I might create an issue for that actually, so that we can track it. Cool. Anything else? All good. Okay. So
Thank you.
thanks everyone, and see you next time.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye bye.